afford pre-K programs or an early extension of the public education system. So readily available to parents who can afford pre-K, it's a valuable tool to any child's life as they prepare for them to enter into the world and their school, whether it's even homeschooling or it could be public schooling or private school, ultimately prepares them for success. However, this powerful tool is not always an option for many families. Today, due to the continual demand of families to provide for their families and hold several jobs, oftentimes pre-K is not on the top of the priority list due to how expensive it is. However, if pre-K were federally funded, this would allow a greater number of families a chance for success, starting with their children's education. So let's take a look back at how it used to be and see how the demands have changed and why less children are in pre-K or child care programs or other things similar. So over the past 30 years, the demand for working families has increased. In 1975, males were primarily in the workforce with their female counterparts being the homemakers. This number went from just about half in 1975 to only 1 in 5 in 2011. So this means that more women are having to go out and get jobs, leaving the children in the care of family members or child care providers, preschools, part-day programs, you name it. This also puts a severe demand on their income, their hours, and availability, which in turn affects how much they make, bring in, and are able to provide for their family. So child care accounts for roughly 10.5% of a family's income, and this includes when both the mother and the father are working. So children who are part of low-income families, or even families in general who are considered low income, so families who make roughly, let's just say, $1,500 a month, not including their bills, their rent, their car payments, anything like that, automatically 52.7% of this income right here goes to child care, on average. Granted, this number varies differently based on how many children you have, what state you live in, the child care facility, but on average, roughly a little bit more than half of one's income for lower income families goes to child care. So this means that roughly $700+ dollars are going out of this family's income every single month. This number is why many families opt out of childcare, opt out of pre-K, because pre-K is usually more expensive because it's more geared towards education than so-called babysitting. Some of the good things about this is that 22% of this lower income figure right here, 22% of those already receive child care subsidy, which means that the federal government, by the state or however the state decides to allocate that, pays for the child care. They will pay up to $5,500 per child per year. This number may seem large, but again, if you're thinking about this number right here for only one child or per daycare or days, this number is quite helpful, although it just barely meets the minimum. And only 22% of them, of these lower income families, are receiving this. So when you think about that number, it's not very large, and it really doesn't make that big of a difference in the workforce. So that means only now 22% of these families are able to go out and participate in their community and participate in the workforce and make a living. This also means more taxes for the community and for the government. It means just larger growth economically, but that's still only 22%. That's not a lot, and I think that number could get bigger if there were federally funded pre-K programs or an extension of a public education system for children in the pre-K system. So with that, let's talk about why early childhood education is so important. So, early child care education, many people think, oh, child care, you're doing finger painting and arts and crafts and things of that nature. Many people might roll their eyes and think people just use it to babysit their kids. While this might be true, there are several benefits to children who are in child care pre-K programs. So, here are some of the things that it means that they will not do. If a child participates in an early childhood education program, they are 25% more likely to drop out if they do not attend. That's a lot. A quarter of every graduating class for children who do not participate in an early childhood education program will drop out. 40% of them are more likely to become teen parents. That's nearly half. Nearly half of these children that are not attending will become teen parents. 50% will likely have to enroll in some sort of special education program. Because they are not up to par with their developmental peers. 60% will never attend college. They will probably repeat the cyclical process that their parents did. Graduate, go to work, provide, no school, live paycheck to paycheck, and so on, the cycle continues. And the last one is a little bit shocking. 70% of the children who usually do not participate in some sort of early education program are more likely to commit a violent crime and wind up in a youth detention facility and possibly even jail. So those numbers might seem startling, but they are very true. And it is testimony as to how important childcare is. So now that we've talked about all of the scary things about childcare, let's talk about some of the benefits. What's the cost? So how much is it going to cost the government? And how much is it going to give back? Most people want to know, if they're paying for something, what are they going to get in return? According to research, for every dollar that is invested into a child, the government sees an output of $7. This means that there's going to be an increase of $6 for all investments. So there's a $6 profit, so to speak, for every dollar invested in a child. How are we going to make this happen? Well, I know that many of the arguments in a public school is to lower the teacher-student ratio so that there can be greater attention to the children. And with all the money that people will be investing, and there would be $11.7 billion invested over a 10-year span, this money would be spent on teachers. These teachers would also be required to be certified and licensed by the state, much like any other public school system. In other words, it would just be an additional grade below kindergarten. So in essence, public schooling would start at 3 years old. This happens a lot in Europe and a lot of other Eastern cultures where children start education at a very young age and also continue on until much older ages as well than we do. Another thing would be to have assessments so that they were better prepared for kindergarten, and that they would have a pre-kindergarten screening before entry and before graduation from pre-K. There would also need to be an expansion on improving the quality of childcare. So not only would people have, or would we have to build or find the room, funding, buildings, what have you, for the programs, but using existing programs and just having them participate in the program. These programs, since they're already existing, would have to undergo a major improvement for the quality of care that was run by the state and the Department of Health and Human Services. So it would have to be very closely monitored. Excuse me. I can't read my writing. Huh. All right. So basically, all it would be is that the increase of taxes that this would be, I think they researched it was around, 2.5%. 2.5% raise in the childcare tax. And this would be invested initially in the first 2 years to pay for an early childhood education program that was publicly funded and attached to a military school, an elementary school. So there would be the high school, the middle school, elementary, and then the pre-K. And they would flow up from there. But they would be two, they'd be one and the same. This would better enable parents to participate in the workforce, create a better cash flow, and grow with the economy instead of being stuck in the economy. And that very cyclical process would be ended. It would take out a good chunk of that 52.7% of the income that we talked about would be reinvested into the economy and would therefore stimulate it. Not only that, but for every child that participates in the pre-K program, 60% of them are more likely to go to college. That 60% that never would have went to college is now more likely to go, which again produces, or hopefully would produce, more societally responsible humans and adults and more doctors and more teachers and police officers, biochemists, you name it. All of these things are much better for our community, and overall, the early education childhood program, I believe, is a great program that should be offered to every person, no matter how much they make, no matter where they come from, and it should be accessed just like our public school system.